This is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety's Disaster Discussions podcast, where we explore the intersection of weather and the built environment. Welcome to Disaster Discussions. I'm your host, Rachael Penton Gauthier. In early 2025, KB Home's Dixon Trail neighborhood in Escondido, California, became the first in the U.S. to receive a provisional Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood designation, with every home in the development built to meet the Wildfire Prepared Home Plus standard, IBHS's Beyond Code construction standard for wildfire resilience. The development includes 64 homes built with features proven by IBHS wildfire research to limit ignitions from embers, flames, and radiant heat, including things like a Class A fire-rated roof, ember-resistant vents, non-combustible fencing, and a 5-foot non-combustible buffer. The KB Home initiative has earned extensive media coverage since its launch, signaling the project's national interest. One of the highlights, the dramatic insurance savings that some residents report, including one homeowner who reduced their premium by thousands. KB Home is committed to building all homes to the Wildfire Prepared Home Plus standard within 6 miles of a fire hazard zone. Joining us now to share the vision, design decisions, and cost trade-offs and real-world impact on residents is Steve Ruffner, President and Regional General Manager at KB Home. Steve, welcome to Disaster Discussions.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to start out, I would love to hear a little bit about yourself and a little bit more about KB Home.
Yeah, so KB Home has been in business for nearly 70 years. We're a publicly traded home builder on the New York Exchange. I've been with the company for 38 of those years. My background stems from operational, and then I've been involved in pretty much every aspect of the business over the last 4 decades. Started my career with them back in the late 80s and have been with them ever since. So it's a great company for me, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished at Dixon Trails.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Dixon Trail. This has been a really exciting project for IBHS to collaborate with KB Home on this year. And I want to talk about kind of the vision and origins and as to how this project came about. So can you tell me what inspired KB Home to start pursuing wildfire resilience, not just at the individual parcel level, but to create an entire neighborhood that could be more resilient to wildfire? What is it that spawned this idea?
Well, it's interesting. I went to the Pacific Builders Conference back in June of 24, and there was a demonstration put on by IBHS where they showed 2 different structures, one built to a code, not the Chapter 7A or the IBHS standards, and then a new another unit right next door built to the IBHS Wildfire Plus standards. And then they blew kind of a simulated fire with a windstorm against both buildings. And the building that was built to the IBHS standards did not burn, and the other building burned down completely in about 45 minutes. And I was shocked at how quickly that home became engulfed from the wildfire embers. And I knew we were building in what we call a red zone or a high fire severity zone in Escondido at our Dixon project. And we had already started the project. We were grading it. And I went up to the IBHS team and I said, would you guys consider doing an entire community? Not just one home built to your standards, but the whole community. And they said, well, that would be new for us, but we would love to do that. And so we collaborated, and then we went to the city of Escondido and presented what we were hoping to accomplish, and they were big supporters. Sean McGlynn, the city manager there, was very involved in the Northern California fires years ago, and he really wanted to do this project that way. And he's also on the Wildfire Advisory Committee board up in Sacramento. So, yeah, with IBHS' support, with the city of Escondido support, we were able to pull off the Dixon Trails in very quick time.
Yeah, we had a launch that we kind of partnered with you guys with earlier this year to introduce this neighborhood to some media and other kind of officials in this area. I can't help but notice the timing of this with the LA fires happening in January and this event happening shortly after that. How do you think that the current events and the current situation, in light of what happened in LA at the beginning of this year, kind of affected the attention that this project has received? How do you think that all kind of ties together?
Yeah, I think it was eye-opening for not just KB Home, but for the world when they saw the destruction in Los Angeles. It was heartbreaking to watch on the news, and we knew we were building to this standard already, but we didn't want to take advantage of their suffering and come out with any kind of a media program, so we gave it some time. But I think the shocking part of it was how well received it's been by our customers and how interested people are all over the world with what we've done, because wildfires aren't just in California. And we have over 1 billion impressions on the media that we've done with IBHS. So it's a pretty amazing thing, and people are learning from it, and we're really pleased. I mean, we talk about red zones or high fire severity zones. I think the biggest issue for us is, will this help our customers have peace of mind when they're in a high fire zone or within 3 miles of one? And really, the 3 to 6 miles, IBHS has given us those standards because in Australia, the embers go up to 6 miles. In California, they have proof of 3. So we're really looking at wind corridors. We're looking at where our communities are located. And if we're within reach of those fire zones, we are going to consider doing this everywhere, because it's the only way we're going to be able to get admitted insurance carriers to insure our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're certainly going to dive more into those insurance aspects and talk more about those fire hazard severity zones. But I want to talk more about some of the just kind of the basic features first. So all of the homes in the neighborhood are built to the Wildfire Prepared Home Plus standard. I'm curious to know, why did you decide to go and build to Plus over base, that highest standard, and talk a little bit more about some of those key features that are included with each home?
Well, to begin with, we were already in a high fire zone, so we had to build to California's Chapter 7A program, which varies from the IBHS standards in a few ways. One of the ways was with the local municipality adding on a requirement for heavy timber fencing between the homes. And remember, we have 10 feet between the homes. And that heavy timber fencing through IBHS's testing does not hold up well in a wildfire situation. And so they asked us to consider metal. So we went back to the city. We offered up a metal fencing program that looks just like vinyl or wood fencing, but is made out of steel. And we did that. And we were able to actually save money from doing that over the heavy timber requirement. And then we used that other savings to dual pane temper our windows. And then also it paid for the spark arresters we had to put on our steel gutters, and some of the other extra things we had to do, like the 5-foot zero zone, et cetera. So we ended up getting the costs very similar to what we would have had to do with Chapter 7A. So for the impact on the customers, the price wasn't the problem. It's really more about the savings and the peace of mind of being, in a community that could be protected from a wildfire wind-blown event.
Yeah, I've seen photos of the fences, and is this right? They're made from, are they recyclable or made from a recyclable material? Another kind of added bonus there?
Yeah, so we worked with our fencing contractors, and the steel is 30% recycled. And, we're concerned about our carbon footprint. Steel has a fairly impactful carbon footprint, so being able to recycle some of the product was good. And that was another deciding factor on why we went that route.
And I'm curious to know, I want to talk some about the resident experience. You've kind of been doing this project in different phases. Now you have some of your first homeowners actually living in the neighborhood. So I guess first off, from a marketing standpoint, how has this played with homeowners who are maybe looking to live in, a home that is more resilient to wildfire? What have homeowners and potential home buyers, been saying about this project?
Yeah, so the community is it's a single family community on normal size lots, which in San Diego County it's pretty rare, and so it's in the city of Escondido. But a lot of our customers, when they showed up, they were shocked to understand that we were also building to the standard, the IBHS, Wildfire Plus standard. And I don't think they really realized the savings they were going to get from that. So when we talked to them about the insurance savings, we were able to secure a couple of insurers through our agency. And the cost difference, one customer told me they got a quote from their broker to go with the California Fair Insurance Program and a liability rider. It was going to be over $8,000. And then with our $1,200 for a year for our insurance that we provided them, they were quite shocked and very pleased, actually, that they were able to get that. So, yeah, that was a really kind of a good outcome. The real estate market's been a little softer the last year, and not so for Dixon. There's a lot of demand for people that want to live there. And we also get a lot of people that come through and want to know what they can do to their home. So we share those IBHS standards with them and tell them they could also do this to their own home.
Yeah, I would certainly think in today's world, this would be a home run, and from a marketing standpoint, and in these higher fire areas, having homes, an entire neighborhood that's built more resiliently. Let's talk about some of the changes you've made now that the homeowners are living in the homes. I know you initially had pea gravel around the homes, and you made some changes with that within the zone 0. So, it's one thing to build the home, but once you actually get people living their everyday lives in these homes, you may find out that you maybe need to tweak some things. So talk about some of those tweaks that you've made now that you have residents in the homes.
Yeah, so what we noticed when the residents moved in is they didn't really want pea gravel around their house, and so many of them were removing the gravel and installing hard surfaces like pavers or concrete, other products that aren't flammable, which through the CCNRs and the restrictions on the HOA, they do have to abide by the IBHS standards. But we decided that we would go with what is called decomposed granite. It looks it's a fancy word for basically non-combustible surface, but it's a good base for people to do things on top of. So we switched it out about halfway through the community, and because it was quite daunting seeing them remove the gravel, so we didn't want to have that go to waste. So we switched over to a product that's used for underlayment on streets and sidewalks and things like that.
From your standpoint, how does it feel to know that, residents they're in these wildfire resilient homes, they're saving thousands in insurance, and they're happy with how the development is turning out? How does that feel?
Well, it feels great. I mean, our company, the customer comes first, and just knowing that they're so pleased. And also, it's been a great experience. We have toured many municipalities. We've had all the fire marshals from the state through. And what we want to really tell them is this 5-foot, I call it safety zone around the house, doesn't mean that you don't landscape. Like it doesn't mean that the house is going to look bad from a street appearance or the elevation's not going to look good. And so we're able to demonstrate that with our models, and they're able to see the community. And I think everyone now realizes that this is viable. You can do it, and you can still have a really nice looking yard and protect yourself from wildfire.
Yeah, I've not been to the development in person, but I've seen numerous drone photos and videos that our team has collected out there. Very, very beautiful homes, very aesthetically pleasing. The yards are very nice. They're, like you mentioned, there is landscaping. I've seen some colorful flowers, trees, grass. It certainly, is not lacking from an aesthetic point.
Yeah, it's just common sense, and also testing from IBHS that led us to, hey, look, just don't put flammable products within 5 feet of your home. And we tell people to come out and say, well, I have an existing home. I don't want to move. What do I do? I go, well, the first thing to do is get all the flammable products away from your home. So if you can transplant or move plants away from your house and go to non-flammable products like pavers or gravel or rock gardens or whatever you want to do within 5 feet of your home, you're going to really prevent yourself from being exposed to a wildfire event. And then there's stuff they can pile onto with the windows and the closed box soffits that are stucco so that the embers can't get into the attic. And then the big thing we tell them is when you re-roof your house, make sure you replace your vents to wildfire ember protected vents. And so far it's been well received. I I think I speak on this subject so much that I'm now considered a fire expert, and I always have to tell them I really am not. I'm just implementing a program by IBHS.
Working with IBHS will make you a wildfire expert when you talk about our science and our standard over and over, certainly. So you've talked about you are a fan of wildfire prepared neighborhood construction, regardless of insurance. But I know there are some hurdles. What are the biggest hurdles that you have to deal with?
Well, design guidelines. So in the state of California, most of the municipalities have existing design guidelines for different planning areas or zoning. And we've had to work with cities and teach them that there are products that lend itself to this IBHS system and elevations that, accommodate it easier than others. And we talk about, look, if we have to do a lot of siding, wood siding, we're going to have to convert that to cement-based siding, which still looks great, but it's very expensive. So we'd like to tone that down a little bit, maybe go with some more Spanish designs that are stucco-based. So there are things like brick, rock, elevation changes you have to make. And then shutters have to be stuccoed, but they still look great from the street like a real shutter, but it is a stucco product. So we've been learning along with IBHS on how to make this look right and also keep it reasonably priced for our customers. And it's been well received by the cities. I mean, we've had them out, we've talked to them, their planning commissioners, et cetera. And we say, hey, look, this is kind of the wave of the future. A lot of the parts of San Diego County are going to be in a red zone, and you're going to have to, work with us. And it's always difficult on multifamily to be 10 feet apart, but at least we can build a structure to the Wildfire Plus, and we keep a 5-foot zone around the homes. So that's been the biggest challenge, is just working with them and getting them to understand that this is really the wave of the future, I guess would be the right way to say it.
Yeah, that's a great segue. You talk about the wave of the future. So we've had the Wildfire Prepared Home program at the parcel level for several years now. We have more than 1,000 designations in a few different states out west, but the Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood program is new. We have not officially launched it yet. We're in really the kind of the pilot phase of this. And this neighborhood was really, the test bed for developing our technical standard. So I want to talk more about that. In the Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood Technical Standard, homes will have to have a minimum structure separation of 10 feet. And the reason why is that's the minimum distance we found through our research, that homes need to be spaced apart in order to have the best fighting chance during these conflagration events, such as what happened in LA earlier this year. You talked about being committed to building those homes within 6 miles of a fire hazard zone to Wildfire Prepared Home Plus, even if those density requirements prevent that full neighborhood designation. So kind of talk a little bit more about what led you to make that particular commitment, because unfortunately, the Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood Technical Standard will not, in the real world, it will not be able to be applied to every single neighborhood out there, but you've still committed to building homes more resiliently.
Yeah. So when we each level of the IBHS program gives you more safety in a wildfire event, but when you can't do all of it, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do any of it, right? So the focus here is, hey, let's do what we can to reduce the risk of a wildfire event. And we might not be able to do 100% of everything. Also, the 6 miles it's not a given that you would always, if you're 6 miles away, do this program. It's more about where's the wind corridor. That's what insurance companies look for. And I think within 3 miles, you should really consider this program. And that's been tested by IBHS. That's a pretty consistent number right here. Yes, there are events that can drive embers 6 miles. They've seen it in Australia and other places. But at the end of the day, at least at the 3 mile level, you should focus on this program. And if you're in a wind corridor, which most of the red zones are really driven by wind corridors, not just if there's a high fire zone per se nearby. So we're looking at that. I think for me, it's just a process. And it's going to become, I think, like second nature over the years that come forward. Is we want to protect the California, the new home buyers from wildfire events. And we've been told by first responders that our communities also can be good staging grounds for them in a fire event because they don't have to worry so much about protecting structures there where they could actually fight the fire around our community. So pretty exciting to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, that's really unique and interesting point as well. I think kind of our purpose in designing these wildfire prepared neighborhoods is to allow these neighborhoods to act as a buffer or fire break to maybe be something in between, maybe two other neighborhoods that are not built with these wildfire mitigation standards, but kind of serve as a buffer to help break that spread of fire when you're talking about different neighborhoods in close proximity to each other.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Ann Coop with you guys has talked about fire conflagration and the wildfire becomes its own like firestorm. I think having our community between two other communities could really slow that process down and give the first responders a real chance to help the others around us.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about Zone 0. Here at IBHS, we refer to that first 5 feet surrounding a home as Zone 0, but there's a lot of different names for this zone. It's previously been called a home ignition zone. I know other states refer to Zone 0 actually as Zone 1. You prefer to call it by a different name, and you have some reasoning why. Tell me about your take on Zone 0 and why it should be called what you call it.
Probably going back by 40 years of being in the business, we used to have this thing to save water in landscaping. We called it Zeroscape. And it wasn't really a good marketing term because people just assumed that meant there was no landscaping. And I told Chief Berlant with CAL FIRE, and I've told IBHS, that Zone 0 kind of harkens back to some of those marketing terms that weren't well received. So I think it's really a safety zone. So that's what I call it. I guess you can call it a zero zone, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, we just want customers to understand we don't want you to put flammable products, whether it be toys, landscaping, furniture within 5 feet of your home. I mean, just move that stuff away, make that your safety zone, and you're going to have a much better chance of surviving a wildfire event.
Certainly, we want people to think of it more as sort of relocating these things just outside the first 5 feet, right? You have trees, you have plants and beautiful landscaping. You can have most of that as long as it's well maintained. But our guidance really calls for that just to be beyond 5 feet in that 5 to 30 foot space. So yeah, interesting take on that. I love to hear all the different perspectives. I want to talk more about local planning departments and city councils. Sounds like you've had a lot of a positive experience, but I'm sure you face some challenges as well. What kind of challenges do you face when it comes to working with planning departments and city councils?
Well, I think it's just getting them initiated to even the Chapter 7A programs they're not familiar with, as a lot of these folks are volunteers. They don't really understand that we can't just do the elevation. We also have to think about its impact to a wildfire event. So I've been spending a lot of time with them on that. And then a lot of these cities, they have climate action plans. So trees are a very important part of that. And they're thinking, oh, well, you're going to take all the trees out of your community and that's going to impact the climate. And I'm like, well, we can still plant plenty of trees. We just won't be able to plant them within 5 feet of our community. And we also have spent some time talking about tree canopies. It's not just the trunk of the tree. Is the canopy going to grow into the house over a certain amount of time? So as part of this process in the CC&Rs, we make sure that the management companies know you have to maintain the landscaping. So you can't just let it grow towards your home. You need to trim the trees regularly and make sure that they're going up and not out. And I think that's been a process when we talk to cities, and they get it. And we've even volunteered, well, hey, look, in a townhome community, we might not be able to plant as many trees, but we're happy to go plant the trees we would have planted in a park nearby or someplace that isn't going to impact a wildfire event. And that's been really well received.
And what kind of education or policy support would help builders, move forward with more wildfire resilient neighborhoods like this one?
Well, I think that as many builders as possible should look at our community either online or come see it, because I think the idea of this zero zone they think it's not going to look good as far as a marketing street scene, and it really does. And so once they come out and look at it, so far everyone's been like, oh, this looks good. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't have to look, terrible. It looks good. You just have to put more effort. Like with our landscape architects, we're talking about different ways to landscape without flammable landscaping in the 5-foot safety zone. And so, there's a lot of ways you can do that. And you can do rock gardens, you can do pavers, you can do concrete, you can do permeable pavers if you want to have the water not just flow off the community. So there's lots of things you can do. And we bring it up and we talk about it. And the landscapers are now getting on board. I think you're going to see the master plan community start to understand this. And one of the things we've been talking a lot about is you can't just build a wall around your community and then say the fire won't get to you, because the embers come through the air. So that's the one thing I've learned is I always thought, oh, we'll just put a masonry wall around our project and we'll be safe. Well, that's not the case. I mean, the embers can fly up to 6 miles, and 3 miles is definitely a devastation. So at the end of the day, you've got to think about what's coming in the air and what's it going to hit, and is that going to impact your structure? And that's really what I've learned from IBHS is how to deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. We talk about flames, radiant heat, and embers. It's, the flames and the radiant heat that they produce on the ground, maybe at what we call the head of the fire. But most ignitions are caused by wind-borne embers. And you're exactly right, traveling miles, I think in some cases up to about 4 or 5 miles, downstream. And those embers land on things. And if one of those things is a combustible item within, 1 or 2 feet of your home, or a combustible part of your home, the roof, if you have, if you don't have a Class A roof, things like that, all of that leads to spot fires. And that just continues to kind of help tip those dominoes towards the conflagration scenarios that we see, like in LA. So protecting against those embers is absolutely key, as well as those flames and radiant heat, particularly for those houses that are, closest to the wildland. So I want to talk a little bit more about the insurance aspect. You've toured some insurance companies through the Dixon Trail community. What is your message to insurers who have, restrictions against writing new policies, say within 1,000 feet of brush or in some of these high risk zones? What is your message to these companies?
Well, in California, there's a lot of rules around insurance and process to get insurance. A lot of the insurers would like to raise their rates in California to kind of balance out their risk. And one of the things we coach them on is if you're going to have to insure to get your risk insurance premiums, improved, you should insure these kind of communities because the risk profile is so much lower. And when they walk around and they see, okay, yeah, sure, there might be some ember ability 1,000 feet away, but at the end of the day, if those embers fly into the community, odds of them igniting something are really low. Then all of a sudden they get excited about it. We will say it's a slow process. I can't say it's been immediate, but the insurance companies are learning. We're definitely disappointed with the number of insurers that we have been able to win over quickly, but I think it's a process, not an event. So I'm going to continue to coach them. We're also dealing with the insurance commissioner in California, and we're going to talk to him about it. And I think this is a great thing to have admitted carriers come back to the state. And really, if we do these kind of things, we'd like to be rewarded by having those insurance companies back. So I think it can be a big savings overall for the customer. And also, it's good for the state to have more insurance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what IBHS is all about, minimizing risk, both for our members in the insurance industry and for homeowners, minimizing their own risk, living in safer homes. So that's great to hear. So what is your take on the future of wildfire resilient housing? Do you think it's evolving now? Is it going to continue to evolve? And how do you see that happening here in the months and years to come?
Well, the reason we did this project in Dixon is we wanted to understand it. It's kind of like a proving ground for what's the best way to get there. And I think that over time will, kind of like the old plasma TVs that were $10,000 and now they're $100. Things change and costs improve. our trade partners, our fencing companies, our window companies, they're all learning that, hey, this is the way of the future. So how do we get the costs down? So it's going to be a process, but I do think over time, and it'll be, fairly quickly, this will become the norm, and people that build new housing are going to go this route. And we're going to have to coach cities into working with us on it. Just, hey, we're going to have to do this. You look at the map, a lot of the areas are red now in a lot of these cities. And so I think they're going to appreciate that we want to make a difference.
And what's your take on other builders? Are you engaging with other builders, or is anyone looking to you as kind of the model for what they could do with their own companies?
Yeah, we're not hiding anything from anybody. So we're working with the California Builders Industry Association, the CBIA, and we are telling them what we've learned so that other builders can learn from us. And we're telling them not to be afraid of this process. They should understand that it's not it's not a huge dynamic impact. And if they're already building in Chapter 7A, the costs aren't that much more. And so most everybody's going to do this has already got to build to 7A. So I think this will be good for them. And we do share it with the CBIA, and they do share it with all the builders.
And from a policy perspective, what do you think could support, even broader adoption of wildfire prepared neighborhoods?
Yeah. Well, I think that the paradigm of the zero zone for existing homeowners is pretty significant. I mean, they think that they're going to have to tear down all their trees and stuff. It's not necessarily true. I mean, if they prune them up, if they get them away from the house, if they make some efforts, I don't think this is that significant as everyone is worried about. So, we all feel that it's doable. It's just going to take a lot of education. So I think the more communities we build where people see how great they look, and then the customer who shares their story on how much they saved over on their insurance. Remember, insurance isn't just on new homes. It's gone up for everybody. And so I think if they start doing this stuff and they see what the long-term savings are, the payback on the improvements they make to their house is going to be really quick, to the tune of, a very short period of time rather than decades. So I really think this is the way that things are going to go in the future.
And give us an update on KB. Is the neighborhood complete now? Are you still working on it? I know when we were out there for the media event earlier this year, the first phase was completed. What is the timeline looking like for KB? Have you sold all the homes yet?
No, not quite. We've closed about half of the homes, the 64. So we've got a ways to go, not a long ways, and probably close out within a year. And the community's doing great. I mean, it is a real great experience for people that come. They like it, and I've been really pleased with how well received it is. So it's exciting for us.
Yeah, exciting for IBHS as well. Again, Dixon Trail receiving that first Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood provisional designation. Still have some T's to cross and some I's to dot on that. But we're going to be looking at more neighborhoods, or working with more neighborhoods looking to build to the standard. I know we have some places, even in other states outside of California, that are interested in building wildfire prepared neighborhoods, but still really cool for you guys to be the first. So what is your next move? Or do you have any additional developments, maybe in other spots in California or even in other states? Do you plan to build more wildfire prepared neighborhoods like this one?
Yeah, so we're very focused on anywhere we're within a fire zone. So we are looking at communities in San Bernardino, Riverside County, Northern California. And it'll eventually go to other states, but right now we're focused on California and do the insurance, requirements and how hard it is to get insurance. So, but that's definitely something we're doing, and we're excited about it. And I'm sharing that with everybody, all our other division presidents, on how to do it, and spend a lot of time with them.
All right. Well, certainly very exciting. Steve Ruffner, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Definitely a really cool project that has been underway all year out in Escondido, California. Thanks for coming on the podcast today. Thanks for having me, and have a great week. Thank you. And this has been Disaster Discussions, Crafting Resilience, KB Home's Journey to a Wildfire Prepared Neighborhood. Thanks for listening to the Disaster Discussions podcast. Join us next month for a new episode. For more on IBHS's ongoing research efforts, visit IBHS.org.